Alright guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Today we have Joel here with me. This haircut's gonna be more of a reshape than a transformation, but the reason why I feel like this reshape is gonna be so crucial is because we're gonna be doing a burst fade on the sides. And as you guys can see, Joel has pretty grown out hair and it's very long. I think the crucial part about this haircut is that he came in with colored hair, which is brown. And I really like how the brown sits on his natural texture. So we're gonna try to keep as much of the brown as possible by giving him a middle part on top. So with the style, it's gonna be a middle part brush back, but the sides are gonna be shaped into a burst fade. So you guys are gonna be able to see how I transition shorter clipper work into longer shear work, and just showing you guys the flow of how we're gonna cut Joel's hair today. Obviously, with the hair that I feel, there's way too much weight, so we might have to relayer everything. But overall, this is gonna be a really cool haircut, so let's get into it. All right, so with the breakdown of Joel's haircut, I'm gonna start with the head shape, and then we're gonna move into his face shape. And I think with how I know his head shape forms is the front is quite slim. So you notice his face shape is slimmer, but I think when I feel his head shape out, it's just as slim too. The first thing I need to feel is how his parietal ridge likes to protrude, right? So the first thing I notice is that his parietal ridge, the dip, is pretty narrow through these corners. So I know that if I'm gonna have to create a middle part and create a burst fade around it, it probably can't be too high with the fade. Second thing I know is that I need to keep a good amount of weight in these corners, so the weight needs to sit a little bit heavier in these two corners. Now the next thing I need to look at is the shape from the side. How does his crown like to lay, and what does his nape look like? Why is the crown and the nape so crucial for a look like this? Number one being, it's gonna be the shape of the burst fade, right? The crown is gonna be how much weight we need to keep, and the nape is gonna be how much weight we need to remove. Because I want more of a flared out shape than what it's sitting right now. It's very heavy and it's very bowly. So first thing I feel is I go from the apex and I read the roundness into the crown. It's the first thing. And then as I dip into the nape, I see that there's a pretty quick dip. Okay, you guys want to go ahead and feel that out. Okay, so it's more round and then it has a very exaggerated dip and it's very quick. In a case scenario like this where you know his crown is pretty round and there's a quick dip, the buildup of weight right here, it needs to be very sudden. It can't just be a gradual buildup of weight because that'll probably leave too much weight. So I'm probably gonna go with a little bit more of a tighter shape, build some weight throughout the crown, and through here I'm gonna go ahead and remove a lot of this weight so he can actually have his natural head shape in the back accented. Okay, and we can really bring the shape of the head in the back out as much as we can. And then with the fade, probably gonna go with like a mid burst fade just so we can complement the whole thing. But with that being said, let's get into sectioning. Okay, so as I saturate the hair, the reason why I always like to start with, instead of going in with a comb, I'd rather go in with my fingers. Reason being, I think with thicker hair and with hair that's a little bit more grown out in this case, you need to go ahead and saturate the roots first. So the roots is where you need to saturate most of the hair in, okay? So I'm going in between each layer and I'm making sure that the hair is fully soaked. And I'm being generous with it. Like I said, you want this to be like 70 to 80% soaked before you even get into sectioning. So I think the biggest mistake that people make is they'll just wet down the hair a little bit and then start sectioning, and then they'll be like, why are my sections flying everywhere? It's probably because you didn't saturate it enough. So the first thing you want to do is go ahead and saturate the hair as much as you can. Yeah, just because I am generous with it. So I don't want the water to like fly out, but I want it to just evenly soak throughout. So because I take a good amount of time on this, I think a mister probably works. So after the hair is fully saturated, we're gonna go ahead and give it a slight towel dry. And I'm gonna go ahead and create my sections for Joel's haircut. Okay, so the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and find his natural part from his hairline in the front. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my comb, okay, with my wide tooth, I'm just gonna go ahead and comb this all back. And I'm just gonna let his hair part naturally. And I want to find the part somewhere in the middle, but I need to make it as natural as possible. Notice how his hair likes to naturally part right there. Okay, so perfect. We're just gonna go ahead and split this to the right. Doesn't need to be directly in the middle. We just want it to split where it naturally wants to part. And then this one is gonna go to the left. See how it's working very easily now? Now the same thing here, we're gonna go from this right side and we're gonna drop into a radial section to behind the ear. So ready? Where this begins to round off is where I start the section, and the end of the section is gonna be behind the ear. and everything else gets pushed forward. Now, in this case, I need to remember the right side is wider than the left side. So the section itself up top is probably gonna be wider as well. Just keep that in mind. Same thing on this left side here. We're just gonna go ahead and go from the roundness of the head into the behind the ear. And we just section that out of the way. Next section is gonna be where the roundness of the head likes to round off here into where? Exactly, the corner of his hairline. So this is point B, and the point A is gonna be where his head likes to round off. Maximum tension. Next section through, roundness of the head into where? Corner. Okay, we're just gonna go ahead and clip this up out of the way. And we have the top completely sectioned out, okay, and we're able to have just a clean guide moving into the side. This is gonna be a burst fade, right? So the area that's gonna be graduated is probably gonna be this area right here, right? So the back here too, which is the crown, we need to isolate, because not all of this needs to be graduated, right? So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna grab a guide from this point, which is gonna be the roundness into the crown, and we're gonna just draw a nice line straight through, and it's gonna be a triangular line. Now the next line is gonna be straight through from the same corner of this corner. We're just gonna draw a diagonal line going straight through one more time. And we're gonna go ahead and pick that section up. We're gonna isolate, flip it up and out of the way. So now we know this is the area that needs to get graduated, and this is the area that needs to get what? Layered. So this is the section pattern that we're starting off with. First guide through is gonna be right here. What did I say when sectioning out hair? Comb it how his hair naturally wants to comb. Clearly, does his hair want to go this way, or this way? That way, right? Naturally. So we're gonna stay diagonal, but what do we also notice about his hair? It slightly curves, right? Do you notice that? His hair tends to curve towards the roots. So we're just gonna create a section that kind of curves. And that's gonna be your first guide right there. And we're gonna section that out of the way. Now guide number one is gonna go in right here. Guide number one, knuckles are staying tight to the head, elevating slightly, but we're gonna go ahead and create our weight line right here. Second guide through gets over directed back to previous with the same curved angle guide. Okay, we're just cutting to naturally how his hair wants to lay. We're just gonna move as the guide moves. So we're staying knuckles tight to the head, and we're creating this weight line right where we imagined that 3 guard to sit for the fade. Next guide through, same curved guide, drop it down, and knuckles are gonna stay nice and tight. Check for your guide. There's the guide. And as this follows through, I still stay very tight because this is all gonna get removed with the what? A 3 guard. And as I transition through this area, I have to stay a little bit more mindful because this area is gonna get faded, but it's not all of this that's gonna get faded, right? It's up until this point. So the weight line needs to be right here. Okay, so watch how I create this weight line as I transition down. Boom, this comes down. I'm gonna grab that guide. There's my guide, you guys see my guide? Over directed back to previous. And as I transition down, I still stay nice and tight. See that weight line getting created? Now I'm gonna go ahead, turn it a little bit more, staying close to my guide, and watch what happens at this guide. I'm gonna go ahead and create that line straight through. Boom. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this area out a little bit because not all of this needs to get graduated anymore, right? So we're gonna go ahead and pull this side out just a tad. Okay, it's not too much, just a tad. Okay, just like that. So here I'm gonna go ahead and stay at that square angle. Same thing here, boom. And that weight line is just perfect. perfect weight line, and it's not a mohawk, it's a burst fade. And how do I know if I finish this right side? Once you reach this midpoint and you create this section, that's gonna be your very last section. So once you create that midpoint and you reach this section, all you do now is do the same thing. Over directing everything back to previous. Okay, and that weight line is created perfectly for my burst fade to sit. Okay, let's do the same thing on the other side. So this guide is gonna be the very first guide. Staying curved is gonna go right in. Fingers stay, I pull down, and the clip goes right in. Okay, this is my very first guide. I pick this up. It's gonna say knuckles tight to the head. Imagining where that 3 guard is gonna sit. There's my weight line. Now, if you're worried about the right and left side being the same, after you create that weight line on this side, just go ahead and check this guide to this guide real quick. Visual. Next guide through, we're gonna go ahead and drop it down. Okay, pull this down. And we're gonna go ahead and pick this up. And now we have a guide to work with, right? Over directed back to previous. Fingers are staying tight to the head. We're gonna go ahead and create that weight line. Third guide through, same thing, boom. Knuckles stay tight. We're still staying tight because this area is all gonna be clippered out. Okay, boom. Weight line. Fourth guide through, goes straight into that guide. Now here is where it starts to slightly transition to the back. So make sure we're staying in a square line as we travel through the back. Boom, there's my weight line. And as I get to this guide through here, remember, we're staying mindful now. It's not graduated all the way through here. It's only graduated through here. So what we do here is we're gonna go ahead and pull out a little bit. And we're gonna create a square line. Okay, remember, burst fade is what we're creating. Last guide through. Okay, push everything over. Follow back to previous. There's my guide. Okay, boom, there's my guide. I'm gonna pull out. There's my guide. Pull everything out. And there's my guide as my final guide. And we've created a perfect weight line through this left side as well. Now, what did I say about the crown? I want to build a little bit of weight, right? But I don't want to build too much. And I know that this is going to get softened later. So what I know about this area is that I need to layer it. Now, what shape should I choose knowing that he doesn't really have a flat crown? Knowing that he doesn't have a flat crown, I'm probably going to go with a round shape for optimal amount of volume. But I'm going to slightly keep it square towards the end so we can still keep that weight. So I'm going to remove that clip. We're going to go ahead and split his hair straight down the middle. So split that straight down the middle. Split that straight down the middle as well. We're gonna go ahead and pick this section up right here and watch what happens here, guys. What do we have? A guide, a disconnection. Okay, so we're gonna pull from that disconnection. We're gonna cut into a round line. Now I want to create the most amount of movement through here too. So how should I do this? Horizontally, what shape should I create? So because I want to create a round shape, I'm going to go horizontally round as well to emphasize movement and texture. So we're going to go ahead and pull this out, pull it out, boom. Now we're pushing, there's my guide. Pushing, there's my guide. This is my third guide. I'm just gonna push everything over now. This is my last guide. Just push everything over. Staying round, push. See that? Working on this right side here. And if we were pushing, yeah, to check the guide, on this side, this time we would be pulling. Okay, boom, pull, check my guide. Second section through, comes in, Okay, and notice because all of this has been kind of graduated, I'm not pivoting too much with these sections. There's no need to pivot too much. Last guide through, push everything over. Boom. Now, back, sides, and the crown, everything is fully finished. Now I'm gonna do something a little bit different for the front. I wanna rock this in a middle part, right? I want his bangs to lay nicely. I think I have the option to actually go ahead and one length some of this. So watch what I do carefully. I'm gonna go ahead and release one clip, and I'm just gonna drop this down. I'm gonna grab my feather razor, and instead of layering this vertically, I'm just gonna go ahead and grab my disc connection starting from the back. And using slight elevation, I'm just gonna feather some of this in. Now, why did I decide to do this? Because I feel like one lengthening the bangs is gonna allow me to keep a little bit more weight through the middle part, allowing his hair to lay. I'm moving, and I'm setting in just the perimeter length. And once that's set in, I just check and see how nice it's laying now. The weight is something that I can control when it's dry. So I'm just gonna go ahead and set in my perimeter. That way, the exact way it fell is how it's gonna sit. Same thing on this side. I'm gonna go ahead and release the clip, drop this down, and using my disc connection in the back, I'm gonna set in my choice of length starting here and create a square line through. Pull, pull. Okay. And because this is a middle part, by one lengthening it, it's gonna emphasize the weight towards the bottom, and it's just gonna sit a little bit better for me. You guys notice from the front too, bangs are sitting real nice now. Sitting perfectly. Now, before I do anything, I'm just gonna go ahead, I'm gonna throw a little bit of texture paste as a pre-styler in his hair, and we're gonna go ahead and blow dry his hair out to put emphasis on the shape. Okay. And I'm really saturating the sides mostly, because we're gonna add some more product to the top later. It's already sitting very nicely, right? We're gonna grab our blow dryer and give it a 70% rough dry. And when I mean rough dry, I don't put an attachment in, I don't use a brush, I just go in and dry it up. We're gonna go ahead and use my favorite tool when I like to style, the Denman. Attach my attachment to my blow dryer. We're just gonna go ahead and shape this look out so I can see what we've created here. Okay, now for this, power is gonna stay on high and heat's gonna stay on low. And you see that flow just coming in nicely. Same thing on this side. In the top, I don't need to fully dry right now because it's gonna air dry as I fade it. And I'm also gonna do a complete different styling on top. So we're just gonna kind of see the overall shape that it has right now. Okay, you see how that one length is sitting beautifully? We don't need to layer something that's, like I said yesterday, if something doesn't look bad already, don't change too much to it. The only thing I didn't really like about the top of his hair was that the length was too long. So I fixed the length and left the weight. And what did that do for me? It left me with this beautiful style that's just sitting perfectly for his hair. What would have happened if I maybe layered all this? It wouldn't have sat as nicely. So move with situation always, okay? It's always the situation that you're dealt with and you just kind of move around that. So first things first, let's go ahead and clip the bangs out of the way a little bit so we can go ahead and add this fade in. Okay, we're gonna leave the clips right there. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna grab our 3-guard. 3-guard closed goes right into that weight line. Okay, so head to the side. You guys see that weight line right there? Okay, so watch how this blends in beautifully. Right into that weight line. Same thing here. Maybe open it up slightly. And this is right here is why we don't need clipper over comb, okay? So it blends in beautifully, and now we're able to start our fading process. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side real quick before I move on. 3 guard goes right until it reaches that hair weight line. 3 guard goes right into that weight line. Open it up, and you're gonna hit the weight line at the bottom. So because I wanna go with a lower fade, right? I don't wanna go too high on this fade, like I said. I'm probably just gonna keep the guidelines very soft. I'm just gonna go in with my no guard closed. I'm gonna go ahead and establish a guide going straight through. And as soon as I do that side, I'm gonna go ahead and establish the same guideline on the right side here. And I'm keeping the guide low, knowing that he has a slimmer head shape. So if I keep this guide too high, what's gonna end up happening is that I'm not gonna be able to stretch the fade out as much as I want. Next guide, 1 guard is gonna go in, and I'm gonna keep the 1 guard closed, and just go a little bit above that. Okay, I'm gonna go with my 1.5, open it up, and hit at that weight line out. Okay, I'm closing and I'm opening, and I'm just trying to get that soft guideline out. Once that's roughly out, half guard goes on. Okay, with my half guard, I'm gonna keep my guard closed, and I'm just gonna go ahead and remove that bottom line out. Okay, and the reason why I didn't down fade for this technique is because I need to keep that blend really tight. So what I'm doing is I'm going ahead and kind of ascending for this fade, because that blend that I'm creating needs to be created very tight. Now after that's done, what I have left now is basically just the detail work of this haircut, right? So basically I'm gonna go ahead and set in my C cups. And as I remove that bottom line, I'm just gonna flick. And then go ahead and detail the fade after, but pretty much that's like the end of the fade for this process, and I can kind of go into just the detail work afterwards. Okay, go ahead and remove that bottom line out. Flick up as I get to that line. Okay, and I think the biggest challenge of this haircut now is gonna be when I get to this nape here. So what am I gonna do once I get to this nape? So one thing that I told you guys earlier is that I need to remove a little bit of this weight right here, right? Because what's happening right now, it's not complementing his natural head shape, right? So I'm just gonna go in, right, with my texture shear. I'm gonna pick this up, and I'm just gonna start cutting into it. And I'm literally just gonna be removing some of this weight in the nape. Okay, and what do I notice right now as I do this? It's getting softer and softer, right? So eventually I wanna get to a point where it's laying soft enough that it's just hugging his head shape. It's laying a lot softer now, right? Okay, once it's at a point where I feel like it's soft enough, I'm gonna go ahead and use my feather razor, and I'm gonna create my outline. But before I create my outline, I'm just gonna go ahead and feather into that weight line slightly more. See that? See what I'm doing there? Okay, we're creating a concave shape through the nape, and I'm just removing some of that weight. And as I get to the bottom, I'm just gonna go ahead and remove and create a rough outline. To figure out where it is, I'm gonna go ahead and set in my crispy outline. Once I have that set, I'm gonna go in with my razor. I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a rough outline. And see how the shape now from the side is so much better. Okay, you see that shape is really coming out, and the nape is just dipped in nicely. Now for our very last step, I'm gonna remove some weight up top. Now how am I gonna remove some of this weight up top is the challenge. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick up the sections horizontally, and you're gonna be able to see what kind of shape we've created, triangular, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and move from the front, and I'm just gonna go ahead and remove some of this weight internally. Okay, so you're gonna pick that up. Let it go. Next guy through. Okay, boom. Pick that up. Boom. See all that weight. Boom. I'm gonna pick that up. Boom. Pick that up. Okay, just moving section by section. Now what about this bottom here, right? This back part here, because the hairs are a little bit shorter as I travel forward, we're just gonna go from the opposite side, grab each section. I'm just gonna soften.
Why are you going the opposite ways?
And I feel like this whole disconnection that I kept here, through here, I really like. So we're just gonna go ahead and use that for our styling.
Accent pieces.
I'm gonna get a little bit more paste in my hands. And I'm just gonna play with the shape now and see what it is that I can create. Okay, there's no right and wrong when it comes to this post-styling process. I'm doing whatever I feel like is right and suitable for the style that I'm trying to go for. So I'm kind of just going in with my styling comb now, and I'm trying to create an exaggerated style that's just gonna give this look more of a solid finish. Anything that I see here that I don't like, I can go in and retouch as well if I don't like this heavy disconnection. And now as I get to final result of this haircut, I need to visualize what it is that I'm really trying to capture here. Now as I go ahead and style this up, I start to come up with an idea, right? Now this idea has to make sense. So I'm gonna go back in with my blow dryer. Gonna go ahead and now set everything in place and hairspray it up afterwards. So the first thing that I want to do is I know that I want to bring the bangs down. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring the bangs down on this left side here. Okay. For this side right here, I want to go ahead and bring out a little bit more weight to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and spring this out as much as I can. Bring out a little bit more weight through the back here as well. Once I get to this side, I think what I want to do with the styling is I want to bring this down and sit a little bit tighter. Okay, so this side, I want to have it lay tight, and the other side, I want it to have it lay a little bit differently. So once I get that vision down, I'm gonna grab my hairspray. I'm just gonna lock everything in. And then for the other side, because I don't want a tight style, I'm just gonna go in with my spray and just touch it up. And because I wanna go with a little bit more of a creative finish in the back, just put some edge and a little bit more styling into the back here. And once I get to a point where I'm kind of more satisfied with the look, I wanna stop because I'm gonna touch it up few more times while I shoot this piece of content. All right guys, we have wrapped it up for our final demo on Joel. Before we get into the final shots, just want to say, hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. This was a nice reshape into a burst fade with a creative finish with the middle part on Joel. Obviously, this wasn't the biggest transformation like I said, but because we've added such a cool accent piece on the sides and threw a nice middle part in with the creative styling, it ended up becoming a huge transformation. So with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Go ahead and try this look out, and I'll see you guys next week.